Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio and welcome to week 38 of the Stash Buster block series. Our block this week is called Cups and Saucers, and here is the sample that I made. This one is made with 4 different fabrics. It looks a little more complicated. Maybe that's better. It looks a little more complicated than it really is. It's made with flying geese units, half square triangle units, and then just a single square in the center. So that's all that we need for this one. The only thing is it does have a lot more pieces than some of the blocks we've done in the past, but I think this is really doable for a beginner. So I hope you give this one a try. Okay, here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the Cups and Saucers block. You need 4 different fabrics. You're going to need one focus fabric that's going to go in the center of the block, and that needs to be 4.5 inches square. You've got a darker fabric. You're going to need one piece that is 4 7/8 inch square, and then you'll need 8 pieces that are 2.5 inches square. A medium fabric is going to be the same as your dark. You need one that's 4 7/8 inch, and then you'll need 8 that are 2.5 inches square. And then for your background fabric, you're going to need 8 pieces that are 4.5 by 2.5 inches, and you'll need 2 pieces that are 4 7/8 inch square. Now this makes a 12-inch block, so it's a nice big block. And we're going to start with the half square triangle units, which will need these 2 pieces, and we'll need our white. So we're going to take the white fabric and we're going to draw a line on the diagonal just from one corner to the other. Just go diagonally across, and this is going to be a guide for our hopping foot, this will be a guide for our presser foot. So just draw a line on both of those. You're going to do a lot of line drawing in this block pattern because you'll need it for the flying geese units too. So you can see I'm just using a regular pencil. You can use a fabric marker if you want, or an ink pen. You can use a friction pen, whatever it is you like to use. So now we're going to put these right sides together with the colored fabrics with these 4 7/8 of an inch squares, and then we're going to stitch 1/4 inch away from this drawn line on both sides. And I'm using a 50 weight thread. This is So Fine by Superior Threads. And I'm just going to turn it and sew down the other side. Now this will make 2 at a time half square triangles. And then we're just going to repeat for the other piece, the other 4 7/8 inch pieces. So this will take care of the half square triangles. Get my thread out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart. Okay, you can use your rotary cutter. I'm just going to use my scissors because they're over here and they're handy. And I'm just going to cut these right down the line. And then we're going to go and press these. Okay, for these units, I'm going to press with the dark side up. So I'm just going to lay these out. Clip that thread. Dark side up. Now the fabric that I'm using here, these two fabrics are Kona cottons, in case you're wondering. Okay, now next thing I'm going to do is trim off these dog ears. Okay, so we've got our half square triangles done, and we don't have to do anything to the center piece, so I'm going to put that aside. Next thing we need to do is do our flying geese units. Now if you notice on the original block here, the flying geese go on the 4 sides, and they have different colors on each side. Now you can't do them all the same, because on this one on the left, this is the left of the flying geese on my side, it's the darker teal, and on the right it's the lighter. But if we turn it this way and look at these, the lighter is on the left and the darker is on the right. So you're going to need to make 2 sets. So you're going to make 4 flying geese that are in this, the colors are in this position, and 4 flying geese where they're in that position. So we're going to take these, and we have to draw lines on them. Unless you are really good at eyeballing a straight line from corner to corner when you're sewing, you don't need to do that. And with this fabric being dark, you may need to use a white chalk marker or an air-soluble pen or something that will show up a little bit better. I think I'll be able to see those, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I've got 2 of them here. And this will be a line that you're going to cut on, so it's not, or actually this is the line you're going to sew on. So it's not going to show up in the quilt, but you do need to be able to see it to sew. So on this one, it'll be easier to see that line. I don't know if you can see that very well, but if you compare those two. So if you've got a fine chalk liner, which, let me see what I have here. Now I have chalk pencils. My problem is that I also use them for when I'm painting, and so they get moved out of my studio and then I take them upstairs to my office where I paint. So that's probably where they are, but there's different kinds of chalk markers that you can use. Like here, this one will show better, and this is a Clover chalk marker, and it has a little wheel in here, and it uses chalk powder, so you can use those too. So whatever it takes for you to be able to see. And we're going to have 4, let's do 4 flying geese with the dark going over here on this left. So as you see, this is the left side of the flying geese, and those are going to go there, and then we're going to do 4 where the light is going to go here, and we want the drawn line to go from the center to the opposite corner. So let's take those to the sewing machine and work on them. I'm going to do 4 darks first. And I'm just going to chain piece those. That one I could see really well because that was done with the chalk. Let's see how this one goes. There's 2. Actually, I'm able to see my pencil mark, so I'm doing okay. Okay, now we're going to do the light ones. So I'm just chain piecing and got them all together, and this way I'm able to make sure that I've got them in the position where they need to be. Okay. Applying my scissors. Okay, now I'm going to cut them apart and trim off the fabric. Okay, now what I need to do next is to trim off the outer triangle here. So I'm just going to use my scissors and leave 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we'll have that, and then when we open it up we'll have half of the flying geese unit. So we're going to need to press these, so let's go to the ironing surface. Okay, I have all my pieces here. I've got my 4 darks and my 4 lights, and we're going to press towards the dark. So I'm just going to just roll those right back. Got some stray fabric in there. And I'm using a dry iron today. I don't have steam on. But you can use steam if you want. Okay, there we go. Now we need to sew on the other pieces, and so on the ones that have the lighter fabric, you're going to add the dark to that side, and the ones that have the darker fabric on them already, you're going to do the light. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to position these like this, and then we're going to sew from the center to the opposite outer corner. Okay, now we're going to cut them apart from the chain, and then trim off the outer triangle and press. So once again, I'm going to trim off this outer triangle, and I'm just going to use my scissors, leaving 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what we have looks like this, and then when I press this open, it'll look like that. So let's trim all of these down. Okay, so now we can just press these open. And here we go. There's one of the flying geese units. Just going to continue pressing until I have them all pressed open. And then it'll be time to sew those together. We need to sew 2 of them together. Okay, move my iron out of the way. Okay, if we look at the block, we've got the same position. We have 2 units that have the colors in the same position, so that's what we need to do. So we're going to line up 2 like that, 2 like that, and then we'll do the opposite colorways. Those 2 will go together and these 2 will go together. So now we just need to sew across here, and I'm going to turn mine this way so I can see this area right here. And what I'm looking for is where these lines cross, the stitching lines right here and here. Now they make a point, and I want to go stitch right to the outside of that point, like by a thread or 2. So this is on the seam side. So on the seam side of that crossing, I want to stitch about a thread or 2 over. So I'm going to take these 2, the sewing machine, and we'll sew those together. Okay, so I got my 2 pieces and line up raw edges, and I want to be able to see the tip of the flying geese. So I'm going to turn it this direction so I can see this. And as I get to that point, I'm just going to make sure the needle goes just to the right of that point. And depending on the presser foot that you have, that may be a little difficult to see, which I'm not sure I got that one right on this one. Let's see. Well, it's not too bad. So here we go. Now, if you don't get it where you want it, like I'm not real happy with that, so I'm going to rip that out and try it again. So I'm not going to rip it out completely. I'm just going to rip it out about 4 stitches around it, so I can make a smooth transition. And we'll try it again. I think that's a little better. Yeah. Okay, that's better. I like that one better. So let's try it with the next ones. Now there are written instructions for this block on my blog, and there is a link in the description box below. And it has diagrams on it, so hopefully that will help you. Now this isn't a complicated block, but you do have to, but it does have a lot of pieces in it, so that can be a little bit overwhelming, but we got that one. And let's do the other 2 sets. Okay, so now we're going to press these units. You can press your seams up. The thing is, if you do that, you can't see your points here, and you really do need to see those points when you sew these units together. So I like to press them down in this case. Most of the time I like to press up like this one, so that this point is crisper. You can see it better. And when you do it this way, it kind of wants to blunt it off, so I always have to turn it over and press it again. But I want to be able to see the points on the side in order to piece it correctly, or at least piece it so that I can see those points and do the best that I can. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, now we can put the block together, or do the layout. I'm going to start with the centerpiece. And what we're going to do is put flying geese colors are going to go next to each other. We're going to match the colors. So we've got the dark to the dark, the light to the light. So they're going to go like this. And then we're going to do the same thing with half square triangles. We're going to match the colors. So you can see they're on opposite sides. Like that. And you can compare it to the diagram, make sure you have it correct. But here is our sample block, and here's our layout. So now we just need to sew the rows together. So I'm going to sew these two pieces and turn it so I can see the intersection here, and we're going to sew these together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And get my raw edges lined up here, and I'm finding my intersection. See how we did on this one. It looks good from this side. Let's see what it looks like over here. Yeah. Okay, so now we have a nice point here. So I'm going to sew the other half square triangle onto this side. I'm going to flip it so I can see the flying geese units. And just have to see where I'm going there. Yeah, that looks good out on this side too. Okay, looks pretty good. So here is the top row. Our row 1, and we're going to do row 2. We don't have to worry about matching anything on this row. And put row piece 3 on. And let's do row 3. Now we're back to the flying geese where we have to match points. So I have them turned with the flying geese on the up side. And that looks good. So let's do the other side. Okay, here's row 3. Okay, so let's press and then we can sew the rows together. Okay, on these I'm going to press away from the flying geese, and that'll just make it easier. So I'm going to go ahead and press those seams. This is kind of how they're going to want to go anyway. and get that one's wanting to wrinkle a little bit. So that means the inner row we're also going to press away from the flying geese. And the last row the same thing. Okay, we're going to sew the rows together now, and we have points to match. We have to match this point to this one and that one to that one, and as we're sewing the rows together we have to watch these 2 points here too. So first thing I'm going to do is flip the row over, and I'm going to match these 2 points first, and to do that I'm going to stick my pin at right where those 2 seams cross, and it should come out right by that point, and if it doesn't, just adjust it a little bit. And then I'm going to go into the point here of where the flying geese is, and then line those seams up, make sure they're nested together, and then pin it, and then do the same to the other side to this point here. And just go in to where that point is. That one, the seam was wanting to roll over, so okay, and now to sew it, I'm going to sew from this side so that I can see all 4 points. So we'll take this to the sewing machine and sew this piece. And I'm just going to watch that intersection as I get close to it. And come to the next one. I'm removing my pin so that it doesn't distort things on me. Okay, let's see how this worked. Looks pretty good. So we've got those 2 rows together. The seam is right there. So we'll do the same thing to the next part. Just make sure you've got your colors matched up, your darks and your lights, and match your points. Okay, let's see how that one worked. Not too bad. So there we go. Okay, so let's press and see what we have. Okay, now when you press this block, you press your seams to one side and just do it whichever way you think is going to be the best for your block. And I'm just going to press them out from the center. And then just give the whole block a quick press. Get that piece off. There we go. And there we go. There is our cups and saucers block. Okay, I have 4 blocks laid out on my design wall, and they're all facing in the same direction. So all of the dark pieces are to the left right here. So that's the look you would get if you laid them all out side by side and had them all in the same position. Now of course you can turn these. This block will give you different looks, but you know, this looks really nice, and you've got diamond in the center where you could do some nice quilting. So you'd have that here and on all 4 sides. So let's turn a couple of the blocks, and let's match up these corners here, the colors here. Okay, so there's a little bit different look that you can get. And of course, your opposite sides would have this light color doing the same design. So there's 2 different ways that you can lay this out. And of course, if you use different colors, you'll have different looks. You don't have to use, you know, all your colors the same in this area. You could change that around if you wanted to. So I would play with this either in some design software or just on graph paper maybe, and try out different colors using markers or colored pencils, and see what kind of design you like. Well, that's it for the cups and saucers block. I hope you'll give this one a try. It makes a really pretty block, and when you put them all together, you've got a really interesting looking quilt. Don't forget to click that like button if you like this video, and subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. The written instructions are on my blog, and you'll find a link to that in the description box below. In the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.